Ladies and gentlemen, the entire WWE universe is currently holding their collective breath as we wait to find out news on Seth Rollins' potential shoulder injury. Because it can't be a coincidence that many of us saw Seth Rollins physically struggle with his shoulder at Crown Jewel, physically struggle with his shoulder on the next episode of Monday Night Raw, and then boom, just like that, seemingly out of nowhere, incredibly rushed by about a year and a half, I would say, Seth Rollins gets kicked out of the Vision by Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. Which leads me to start moving my brain around and to start to ask questions as to why they decided to pull the trigger on this as early as they did. And unfortunately, my first immediate gut feeling is that Seth Rollins might have a severe enough injury where he might be out for a significant amount of time. Maybe he even misses WrestleMania, and he might even be forced to relinquish and vacate the World Heavyweight Championship. Or, we're just being worked again with the knee injury that happened at Saturday night's main event that ended up being just a big old fake, a big old ruse to cause CM Punk to lower his guard and get his ass cashed in on that Money in the Bank at SummerSlam. So you never know with Seth Rollins. Is this a work? Is this real? I have no idea. But in today's video, we're going to treat it like it's real. So if the World Heavyweight Championship is about to get vacated, I decided to come up with a list of 10 WWE superstars that I think could realistically take up the mantle as our next World Heavyweight Champion. We'll go through all 10 of them individually, and I'll try to give you the reasoning as to why these guys might be the best available option to be our next World Heavyweight Champion. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am incredibly confident that you are going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And I've pre-recorded the past 3 videos, including this one, which is why I'm wearing the same clothes as the previous 2 videos. It's not because I'm dirty. It's not because I forgot to shower and change clothes. It's because I'm doing a mass recording, because when you see this video, I'm actually in the air. I'm coming back to Canada. So soon you will be seeing me back in my office, which means that we were able to go through the entire Japan vacation without missing out on the promise of delivering you daily video. Let that be proof that I genuinely mean it when we say daily videos here, because whether it's rain, shine, Christmas, New Year's, birthdays, Japanese vacations, I don't miss. I am him. That was cringe. All right, that's enough. Let's just start the video. Let's start things off by talking about the most obvious available option, that being CM Punk. CM Punk is probably the best, safest option that WWE has. He's already a main event guy. He is a known commodity. He is somebody that you can give the World Heavyweight title to, and we know that he will be a great champion. Plus, he's a guy that people have been wanting to see as World Heavyweight Champion ever since his return back to the WWE, and we got to see it all of 5 minutes until it got robbed away from us at SummerSlam by Seth Rollins. So I think it would be kind of poetic for the next champion, due to Seth Rollins being forced to vacate it, is the guy that he despises, CM Punk, and because of this injury, Seth Rollins is able to do absolutely nothing about it. On top of that, it's right there, right? CM Punk has already won a #1 contendership opportunity, beating both LA Knight and Jey Uso to get a chance at what I think is Saturday night's main event. I don't know that it's properly confirmed that it's for that show, at least as of the making of this video, it's not. So he already is in line to get a world championship opportunity, whether it's against Seth Rollins or maybe against somebody else in the event that Seth Rollins vacates the championship. WWE doesn't have to overthink this. They don't need to go through a bunch of different roundabout bunch of loops to get to this scenario of CM Punk being the world champion. It could just be the decision that they make as early as Saturday night's main event, and it would make a tremendous amount of sense, and very few people would probably combat this. I don't really think that there's a downside. I think the only downside of CM Punk being World Heavyweight Champion is that he does it by not beating Seth Rollins in the event that Seth Rollins is forced to vacate. I think me and you and so many people we're expecting the rebound of CM Punk winning the World Heavyweight Championship being because he's able to finally best Seth Rollins and the Vision, and he's able to get his big moment. But if Seth does vacate the championship, if CM Punk does win it, he's not going to have that big cathartic moment of finally being able to conquest Seth Rollins and being able to vanquish him. But that to me is nitpicking. Again, I think that this is the best available option. I think he is the safest option. Like, if you want a surefire hit, going with CM Punk is honestly the best choice. It all really depends. Like, what does WWE want to do at the moment? Do they want to rely on the guys that are easily reliable, like a CM Punk, or do they want to experiment with new guys, with young guys that haven't gotten a chance to be world champion in the company before? I think it all really depends in terms of like where they are right now, like mentality wise and booking wise, because we did hear those rumors that WWE is going through like major creative shifts. We don't really know what those major creative shifts are, but maybe, just maybe, those creative shifts will lead towards WWE going after and pushing to the moon the new guys and the new girls that haven't gotten a chance before. And CM Punk doesn't exactly fit that mold. But like I said, easiest, best available option, CM Punk is probably the odds-on favorite at the moment. The next best available option is Bron Breakker. Literally the only reason why I wouldn't do this is because it still feels entirely way too early. This whole thing, everything that is happening right now, feels entirely way too damn early. It feels like we've somehow gone into a time machine and somehow come out in the year 2027 in the road to WrestleMania 43. That's where it feels like all of this should be taking place, not in the middle of October after a B-tier PLE and Crown Jewel and the lead up to Saturday night's main event in the middle of October when WWE is generally at its least popular. But somehow, some way, because of this Seth Rollins injury, again, I'm treating it as real, here we are. We are in this position where Bron Breakker, the Vision, the future of the company, this guy that's going to be a perennial main eventer, multi-time world champion, Royal Rumble winner, main eventing WrestleMania's left, right, and center, is all of a sudden being catapulted to the forefront, to the main event, significantly faster than I think all of us were expecting. And maybe we're just not ready. I say we, because Bron Breakker absolutely is ready. I know that if they decide to give him the world championship, that he's going to do a fantastic job with. And this goes with the mantra of finding new guys, of giving the ball to the next generation of WWE superstars, of not relying on the 40-somethings, on the pushing 50-year-old main eventers anymore, giving a world title to the 20-something-year-old next generational star in Bron Breakker. To me, that signals creative shifts that so far have been rumored. And we have seen Bron Breakker already hold the World Heavyweight Championship. He is the one that took out Seth Rollins. Maybe from a storyline perspective, they credit Seth Rollins being written off because of the beatdown from Bron Breakker. We don't really know. We're still in a bit of a murky waters when it comes to the entire storyline in the situation. But what we know for a fact is that Bron Breakker speared Seth Rollins, kicked him out of the Vision, convinced Paul Heyman and Bron Breakker to join alongside him, and then he held up the title. That to me screams, I'm going after the World Heavyweight title. I don't necessarily think that it needs a brilliant Sherlock Holmes-like mind to be able to connect those freaking dots. I think it's a pretty simple 2 + 2 = 4 type of scenario. Again, I just didn't think that we'd be talking about this at the end of 2025. But I think Bron Breakker, if not CM Punk, I think Bron Breakker is probably the most likely next World Heavyweight Champion in the event that Seth Rollins really is forced to vacate the championship. I wouldn't be surprised if the match at Saturday night's main event for the World Heavyweight title, if it does get vacated by Seth Rollins, is Bron Breakker versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship that's been vacated. I genuinely believe that match just makes sense and people would clamor to see it. In fact, if you go back and watch my video earlier this week predicting the Saturday night's main event card, a little bit of a spoiler, that's what I think the main event is going to be. Again, assuming that Seth Rollins is forced to vacate the championship. The next one is Bronson Reed, and I just don't see Bronson Reed on the same level as Bron Breakker. I mean, it's already pretty clear that Bronson Reed is a follower. The way that episode of Monday Night Raw ended with Bron Breakker basically forcing Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman to fall in line has Bron Breakker as the de facto new leader of this faction, the Vision, whatever whatever it is that you want to call it, and Bronson Reed as a mere follower. Follower ain't gonna win the World Heavyweight Championship before the leader. I just don't see that happen. But you got to talk about Bronson Reed. This is a guy that in the past 11 months has pinned Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, and recently Roman Reigns, one of the few men in this decade to be able to say that he's pinned Roman Reigns in a singles one-on-one match. And you would think with a resume like that you'd be more of a serious contender, a more serious candidate to take up the mantle for Seth Rollins in the event that Seth Rollins is forced to vacate this World Heavyweight Championship. And even though people are throwing his name around, I don't think that people are throwing his name around seriously, at least not in the same vein as CM Punk and Bron Breakker. I don't see it. Again, that's not me saying that I can't see Bronson Reed becoming a world champion somewhere down the line. All I'm saying is that in this current landscape, the way that things are, the current sport that we're watching before our very eyes, Bronson Reed doesn't really make a heck of a whole lot of sense as the next guy after Seth Rollins. So even though a lot of people are throwing this name around, I'm not going to be one of those guys. I don't see it at the moment, sadly. How about this one? John Cena with his last 4 dates maybe winning the 18th World Championship. Is it a possibility? I'm going to say, sure, why not? Anything's a possibility. Anything is possible. But with the dates that we have left, 2 episodes of Monday Night Raw, the Survivor Series War Games, and of course his retirement in December at Saturday night's main event, I just don't think that we have enough runway to make this happen. Then again, if there is a guy that deserves and probably could retire as a world champion, it is John Cena. However, all that does is create a short-term bridge for the problem of not having a world heavyweight champion, because if John Cena does win the World Heavyweight Championship sometime between now and his retirement, or maybe even on his retirement, well, then we are back to square one. We're back to the same problem of not having a world champion because John Cena would vacate. Look, Sting went out as a champion in AEW. He got to retire as a tag team champion. He got to vacate the championship. He got to go out winning. I think that John Cena is absolutely in a position to do the same thing. I just think that John Cena is the type of guy to refuse to win on his way out. He seems like the type of guy to have to do it the traditional way of going out, looking at the lights, putting over the next generation. That's what I'm anticipating from John Cena's retirement, which is why I don't think that he's going to be even so much in the conversation as a world heavyweight champion. If you wanted to talk about an intercontinental championship, different story, different scenario, but world champion, I think that Cena gave us the taste of one last ride as world champion with his never seen 17 run, and I don't think that he wants to run it again, so I don't see it being John Cena, albeit you got to talk about it, right? You got to have it in the back of your mind as a possibility. How about Gunther, a guy that we haven't seen since he lost his World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam to CM Punk? What if, instead of it being Bron Breakker versus CM Punk, what if it is CM Punk against a returning Gunther in a rematch of their SummerSlam match for the vacated World Heavyweight Championship? I think that that'd be a simple one to run. Now, Gunther has been completely MIA over the last couple of months, having facial surgery, I believe, and pretty much everyone and their dog at this point is predicting that Gunther is going to be John Cena's final opponent, and maybe he is the final opponent, and maybe he is the final opponent as the World Heavyweight Championship, and maybe John Cena's last match is for the World Heavyweight Championship. So I can see some of these dots starting to connect, but I don't necessarily think just because I can connect the dots that it's a likely outcome. I just think that it's not an impossible. I think it would be a bit, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Uninspired for them to just go back to Gunther after being champion not that long ago and just reverting back to Gunther as World Heavyweight Champion if Seth Rollins is forced to vacate the championship with significantly other better options out there. I think that going with Gunther would be kind of deflating at the end of the day. So I'd rather not see this, but I do think that it's a possibility. I do think that you can make it make sense. And if you can make it make sense, then at the very least, the conversation needs to be had. This one is a heck of a whole lot of wishful thinking, but how about AJ Styles? AJ Styles is set to retire in 2026. And after what we witnessed between AJ Styles and John Cena, a lot of people are knocking at the door of WWE wanting to see one last major push for a world title from AJ Styles, because clearly the man can still ball. And I do think that perhaps a world championship is going to be in the book during AJ Styles' retirement run. But I think if there is a world championship that's in his near future, I don't think that it's a world heavyweight championship. I don't think it's a WWE Undisputed Championship. If anything, I could see it being the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. I could see AJ Styles going out the way that he came in, through a little bit of total nonstop action. But based on what we've already seen on the most recent episode of Monday Night Raw, I don't think that WWE has any interest in an AJ Styles World Championship run anytime soon, even though he had that instant classic with John Cena that has been absolutely universally beloved. He's right back to hanging out with his best buddy Dragon Lee, going after the world tag titles, going up against the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, JD McDonough. So we are several degrees of separation away from this even being so much as a conversation worth having. Again, literally the only reason the conversation is worth having is because of the amazing match that he had with John Cena and people seeing AJ Styles once again in that main event. Like, LA Knight is a very simple choice here. I think that it's a very natural choice as well. LA Knight has been chasing this World Heavyweight Championship damn near like 3 years at this point, and people have been wanting to see LA Knight get this big opportunity, get the chance. We want that ruthless aggression era booking here where we just want WWE to give LA Knight a chance, even if it's just a couple of months as World Heavyweight Champion, to see if he can make it work, to see if it sticks to the wall. But it seems like WWE has been rather gun shy about pulling the trigger on LA Knight. But would they be gun shy if they have no choice but to fire the gun? If Seth Rollins is injured, if Seth Rollins is indeed injured, I think LA Knight is a wonderful choice as our next World Heavyweight Champion, considering he has been problematic to the Vision, problematic to Seth Rollins. He is the last guy to properly beat Seth Rollins in a one-on-one match, albeit it was because of the whole fake injury angle that happened at Saturday night's main event. He has a great track record against Seth Rollins, and he's been chasing this thing. So sure, if WWE wanted to do it, if WWE was willing to experiment, I'll be the first one to tell you that I am on board for LA Knight to be the next World Heavyweight Champion. I am on board for WWE to experiment at a time of the year where they can experiment. If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. You take the title off of this guy at the start of the year and you go through the road through WrestleMania without LA Knight as your champion. But at the very least, you gave it a shot. But even though it makes sense, even though it's logical, even though fans would like to see WWE at the very least try with LA Knight, everything that I see about WWE's booking of LA Knight tells me the polar opposite is going to happen. He ain't touching this World Heavyweight Championship, but I'd like to be wrong. We can talk about Jey Uso. Unlike LA Knight, Jey Uso has actually been given the ball before as World Heavyweight Champion. It didn't last very long, but WWE attempted something new. WWE tried to see if they can make this main event Jey Uso run actually work by giving him the Royal Rumble World Championship win at WrestleMania. And yeah, sure, a short championship reign, just under 3 months, but at least they did it. So he has experience as a world champion, but I think what makes this an interesting scenario is his current demeanor change, being more egotistical, more selfish, more about himself, not even about family, purely about himself. He's willing to put aside family temporarily in order to be able to put himself in the best possible position to regain the World Heavyweight Championship. So I think it would be a fascinating tale to tell if Roman Reigns' way really is successful to the point that Jey Uso can utilize it and climb back up to the top and become the next World Heavyweight Champion. Problem is, he just got pinned by CM Punk, and CM Punk is the #1 contender, so there's not really a heck of a whole lot of room to insert Jey Uso into the possibility of him winning the World Heavyweight Championship in the event that Seth Rollins is forced to vacate. Now, hear me out. I think Jimmy Uso is the far more interesting option than Jey Uso, because if Jimmy Uso can be the way that he is and not compromise his moral compass and still win the World Heavyweight Championship, he can show to the world, he can show to Jey, he can show to Roman that you don't need to be like the tribal chief in order to climb to the top of the mountain, that you don't need to be an awful tyrannical person in order to win the gold, that you can be a family man, that you can be selfless, that you can be a good person and still climb to the top of the mountain. That to me would be a wonderful story to tell that could lead to awesome matches and great dialogue and storylines between the blood. Now, this is a reach. The likelihood that WWE will actually do something like this is damn near, like, straight up just 0%. But I wanted to present it to you because there's something there. There is a storyline that can be told that can be good, intriguing, emotional, that can be successful without necessarily having to only rely on the known commodity of Roman Reigns to get this over. And the last one that, sure, I'll throw out into the universe. What if WWE just decides to get a little bit crazy and decide to do, I don't know, a #1 contenders tournament of who will face CM Punk for the vacated World Heavyweight Championship, and that's where Oba Femi debuts in that tournament. He wins the tournament, goes off to face off against CM Punk, and bada bing, bada boom, out of nowhere, Oba Femi is the World Heavyweight Champion. It sounds insane, but it's not completely out of the norm. WWE has done this before, where they've catapulted a guy from NXT seemingly out of nowhere. His name was a little known guy called Finn Balor. They gave him the World Heavyweight Championship after having him pin Roman Reigns on his debut on Monday Night Raw. Go anywhere, unfortunately, because of an injury. But this is Oba Femi. Oba Femi doesn't get injured. Injuries get injured because of Oba Femi. This is a reach, but again, like, if you wanted to make this work, if you wanted to create a new star right off the bat, if you are forced to do something different because of Seth Rollins' injury, if Seth Rollins is forced to vacate, you can make this work. You can absolutely put the right pieces together to make it so that Oba Femi is our next World Heavyweight Champ. Again, the likelihood damn near zero, but it certainly is fun to think about. All right, folks, thank you so very much for watching today's video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.